I want to talk about my son and his early struggles in school. I don't know if any of you have your kids that struggle in school, but my son was one of those kids that struggled to keep his attention in school. And I remember like a lot of teachers trying to write him off, diagnose him with something, have him see a doctor. I remember my mom, my grandma, all these people would tell me these different things, but my son was completely normal, functioning. If I call him, he coming. It wasn't nothing like that. One thing I was really big on is my son not taking medication. He's not gonna do that. He's extremely bright. He just learned different from these other kids. He gotta be. I remember like his mom writing a letter to the superintendent of the school. Then I remember getting called into the principal office. We had like a parent-teacher conference with the principal. And I remember the teacher was saying that, hey, he tests really, really well. He tests like the highest in the class all the time. It's just when he completed the daily task, as far as the work, he would just not complete the work. He would just do something completely different than what the teacher is telling him to do. What's the big deal? Just send it home. I'll make sure it get done and I'll send it back to the school. But I remember the teacher was like, no, there's a thing called classwork. There's a thing called homework. That's why we send the homework home and he has to do the classwork. This is the stuff that we've done. This is the stuff that he did. So they had all this stuff that he should have gotten done versus the stuff that he did do. The principal suggesting like, hey, let's test him. Maybe the class is a little bit slow for him. Let's see if we can either bump him up a grade or get him in gifted. He ended up getting in gifted. He ended up scoring really, really high on the test. He ended up getting in gifted. But I ended up pulling my son out of that school and put him in a predominantly non-black school, right where I lived at. He thrived over there. The pandemic, remember the kids was home from school. But that year, when he did the work, he finished it like really, really fast. He would do the work, but he wanted an incentive for doing the work and completing the task. Hey, Tyrned, I need you to do this, knock this out real quick, and then I'm gonna get you this, or I'm gonna do this for you. And he would do it a lot of times because he want an incentive for it. But if I didn't promise him something, he's gonna take forever to do it. But I realized my son was very incentivized, which kind of brought me to he probably a sales guy. He would go hard, but it has to be something tangible for him that he could see at the end, that he's rewarded with something. And I know school wasn't really like that. When it came to Roblox and Minecraft, my son played Minecraft, and I knew he was very creative because he would create these cities and these towns, and I would think they would be templates, but they actually are things that he built with his own mind and creativity and his own imagination. Sometimes you don't know how bright your kids are until you line them up with people that are either experts or professionals in that field. Getting my son flight simulator as well. I didn't know he knew this much about aircrafts and knew how to fly a plane until I got him in touch with a guy that was a pilot. He was like, hey T, I'm gonna be honest with you. This kid could fly tomorrow. Let me take him up in the air and let me see how much he knows. And it was just so crazy that these teachers tried to tell me that my son was one way based on schoolwork, but in the real world life skills, he was thriving. Even when it came to Roblox, one of my buddies was an architect. When he seen what my son was building, he was like, hey T, you gotta get him in architecture. So I'm saying all this to say, man, don't be allowing these motherfucking schools and this system to try to get your kid wrapped up into something that he's not understood very early on. My son is a creative mind, but you gotta put your kids in things that's really, really creative and do some things that your kids like. Don't look at where we are in the world. People are getting rich off TikTok, off the internet, gaming, all these different things that they once told us will wash our life away, that these kids become the most successful people over adults because they stuck to something that they believe in. So you have to listen to your kids and see what they want out of life. It ain't always about what you want for them. I just thank God I listened to my son about what he wanted for his life, and he knew very early on, like at 7 or 8 years old, and I just kind of poured and fed into that. But that was upon me doing a deal with him and saying, hey, if you do this in school, it was a trade-off. I remember a teacher was like, oh well, you can't really do that, and that's not the way the school system works. I can't just give him a candy. That means I'm going to get 30 kids a candy. But I always thought, like, if you're trying to get 30 people to do something, why not give them something and have something they could work towards instead of saying, hey, good job and an A on the test. That's not the way the real world works. We all work to do something, take trips. We working to keep a roof over our head. We working to get the car that we want, to live in the neighborhood we want to live in. Life incentivizes you, and you have these rewards upon you completing certain tasks in real life. So I never understood why that just didn't translate to the classroom. And obviously I'm not a teacher, I'm not an expert at it. Maybe you guys can educate me on that. If anybody had anything like this with their kid or dealt with something like this, I would like to see your thoughts and comments below. But my son will be going to the Marines. He's going into tech. If you know Tyrned, he's extremely, extremely bright. And I would love to see what you guys think and leave your thoughts and comments below.